Hello, everybody, and welcome to St. John's Lutheran Church, the Parishscope. The Parishscope for St. John's Lutheran Church. Yes, I did that out of order. Well, we got to get...
To me, it was just the tone of voice. You just kind of said it in a way I've never heard you say it before, so it was just kind of funny.
Yeah, got a little confused there for a second. Said it all backwards.
It's late.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah, just for point of reference, because I like to do this every now and again. It is 10:45 on Tuesday, January 30th, right now. Just hit 10:45. So in case you're wondering, it's late for me. I mean, I go to bed. I'm in bed by now.
Yeah, I'm usually in bed too by now.
As you roll your eyes. Oh man.
I say I inherited some genes from my grandmother, who was a night owl, and I'm definitely
Were they Levi's?
Levi's? No. I had both my grandparents on my mom's side both worked like third shift.
Yeah.
So they were like, I think I just have that. Like even when my grandma was living at Lutheran Hillside Village over in there.
Oh.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
She'd be up, there'd be people like, there's this lady doing her laundry at like 2:30 a.m. and all the people were really mad. So, but she just, yeah.
And
I think
this
I
episode
inherited
has been brought to you by
Lutheran
Hillside Village. No, sorry.
I just figure I hear people who talk about that, like, yeah, Mike.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a very nice facility.
It is
actually.
a very nice facility.
But yeah, no. So welcome to the Parishscope. I'm Pastor Chris Sansom,
and I'm Casey Doremus. I'm the contemporary DGP.
Yes, you are the DGP. Mm-hmm. And by the way, Casey, you know, I can say it this time because you have an email address now.
I do.
Yeah, and it actually is praiseband@stjsp.org. However, because I'm me, if you send an email to dgp@stjsp.org, it will also get to Casey.
Yeah. I got to be better. I got to check my email. I got to check that email because here's the problem is that I work like part-time jobs and I have stuff. So I just have like a bunch of emails. And it's almost a job in itself just to be like, all right, let's check this one. And then my other job that I do social media for, they said like, well, we're going to set you up with an email. And I said, no.
Yeah.
Please do not. Because they just message me on Facebook. That's fine. I don't need you to.
Yeah. Well, but I will
check.
I know.
But I need it for other reasons.
But I was going to say you're part of a younger generation. You probably don't know about mail forwarding. You can actually tell an account to forward your mail to another account.
Oh my gosh! Like an email, I can say one email can send it to another email.
Yes.
Oh man. Okay.
I know. We're high tech these days.
That's very high tech. I was not aware. It's very interesting. Well, I'll have to work on that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah. It's very interesting. I'm not a super tech savvy guy, but but I do social media and videos. So it's funny because people would assume I know tons about like computers, and I really don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think that just kind of goes with it. Like, like everybody has like their specified field. The technology world is getting so big.
Yeah.
It's like, you get into certain like niche departments.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. I mean, I know how to use the programs that I know how to use really well, but that's it. I really don't like, I can't just, if someone said something's wrong with my computer, I'd be like, that stinks.
Yeah.
I can't do anything for you, but yeah. That's how it goes.
So I wanted to talk about this tonight. Yeah. I've obviously been reading. Obviously, those of you that were maybe watching some games, there was some big games on recently, and we got another big one coming up. So the 49ers beat out the Lions.
Wow, I can't believe the Lions lost.
I shouldn't say that. So
I'm happy they lost.
Well, I mean, okay. So here's the thing. Like, and if you've been around me long enough, you know this. Like, my cousin and I have a bet.
Oh, okay.
And so my cousin, born and raised in Mississippi, who is now a non-denominational pastor, and I believe it's in Joplin. He's in Joplin, Missouri now. Oh. He is a huge Lions fan. Like,
why?
Why?
I guess I can't ask that because I'm a Broncos fan, so that doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. Why he's a Lions fan, I will never know. I moved up to Wisconsin for 6 years, and here's the thing about living in Wisconsin. If you don't have a football team of the time that you enter Wisconsin, you are issued one, and it is always the Packers.
Of course.
So I just kind of took it with stride. I was like, okay, I didn't have a football team before this. The Rams came in around my time in high school. They got big right around the time I went to college.
Now, can I ask quickly, since we're talking sports, was that, as someone from Missouri, were people generally very excited about that? Were they like, what are these jokers doing here? Get out of our state.
I remember when I was growing up, I remember they were coming over, and I remember my big thought was, and I felt like a lot of people had the same thing. It was like, okay, they were bad in L.A., now they're going to be bad here.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And it's like, okay, so we got a football team. Now, see, you got to remember, though, the St. Louis Cardinals used to be there, and the Cardinals was a football team. They're now in Arizona.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So back when I was a kid, but you got to remember, I'm also old. So.
Well, do you know around the time they left?
No, but it was probably in the mid '80s. I know I was still a kid.
Okay, gotcha. I did. Wow, that's really that's depressing.
So
were they in St. Louis?
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
And so here's the thing. I remember like, okay, so it used to be back in the day that if you went to a gas station and you filled up your tank, you got like a gift of some kind. Like,
yeah.
And so one of the gifts that you could get were these cups that had the Cardinals football helmet on it.
Yeah.
And so, like, we used to have all these cups in my house that were like Cardinals cups for the Cardinals. And so that's like I remember that because, I remember you get a cup anytime you filled your gas tank up.
I feel horrible now. You know that my family's from St. Louis, and with my grandpa being a sports writer, he's probably smoldering in his ashes right now. So sorry, Grandpa. I should have known that.
But it was in the mid '80s that they left, or maybe like mid to late '80s, whatever. But then here come the Rams, and it was like, they came in for me. It was late. I was like I said, it's high school, maybe into high school. It was kind of like, And in fact, actually, funny story. A group of my friends and we all rooted for like the 49ers. But that was in their heyday. Like the 49ers were like awesome back then. And so it was very much like a fair weather kind of thing. It was it was like, 49ers.
Well, that's why I'm a Broncos fan, because the 1 year I played JFL, which was terrible.
Yeah.
For myself. No, but the 1 year, that was when John Elway was like destroying. So I was like, this is the greatest team of all time.
Yeah.
And so I was a big Broncos fan.
So the Chiefs won out in their game against the Ravens, and then the 49ers won out against the Lions. And so the Super Bowl is set. Now, of course, there's been a huge conspiracy theories, right? Because somebody blasted on a TV that it was going to be Ravens and Niners. And the logo came out, and it was all Ravens and Niners colors and stuff, and everybody's like, "Oh dear, the game is rigged. The game is rigged." And then, of course, the Chiefs won. They changed. By the way, they changed the logo,
right?
And then the Chiefs won, and then now the conspiracy / joke is that Taylor Swift paid them off.
That's right. That's
thing. Right.
Of course.
That was the buildup. And then there's this whole thing, and I'll be honest with you, I've listened to it, but like I don't quite get it. But like there's this whole big deal with 13.
Yeah, that's Taylor Swift's like number.
It's her number?
Yeah, it's like her favorite number or something. I think. I might be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's.
Well, it's like she's gone to 12 games. She is going to the Super Bowl now,
which is 13. Oh my gosh.
Like the jersey numbers, like 11 and 2 is 13.
Yeah.
And like there's all these like little things all over the place, and it all adds up to 13. And they're like, see,
yeah. Oh, that's scary. I mean, I feel like if they win, that's like we need to start really being careful about that, because this is like it's like Salem all over again. So it's like freaky.
Salem all over again.
Just joking.
So for those of you that don't so Taylor Swift is dating Travis Kelce.
And I don't care about Travis Kelce. I care about his brother, because he plays Barry Sachs.
Yeah,
he's a big music. He's a music guy.
Now, is he also the guy that was like running around shirtless, holding a beer, cheering on the Chiefs?
Probably. I'm sure. I don't know. I don't watch, so I will watch probably enough to see like the halftime show. I know. I'm a music guy.
You got to watch the commercials, right?
Yeah, I do like commercials too. So, but I'm that guy who's like, the game's on. Well, I better go get some more, chili cheese dip.
Yeah. Anyway. So that brings a different question to mind that I was kind of pondering over this.
Yeah.
Like, should we, like, as we talk about it, because there's conspiracy theories everywhere.
Oh, yeah.
How much stock should we put in them? And I'm talking about this as a Christian, right? Like,
right. Is it taking away from our Christianity if we're super
like? I guess to me, and I was kind of pondering this question earlier today as I was thinking about this, because like there's the whole conspiracy theory, the colors and all this. They had it rigged all the way to the forefront. They announced on TV.
Their colors are red, so ooh. And Taylor Swift has an album, Red.
Man, it's all connected.
It's all connected.
It's all connected. That's really why she's going out with Kelsey.
That's right.
If he ever switches teams, watch out.
Yeah. Well, then their colors she'll probably pay him to change.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's yeah.
But I mean, I was wondering about this because there's lots of conspiracy theories out there. Some are better than others.
Yeah.
And I thought about it like, on the one hand, as Christians, I do think it's good to think. I
have to strongly disagree with you on that one. No, I'm kidding. Yes.
But you know what I mean? Like, we're not robots. We're not we're not just programmed to say and do certain. We actually have to process and we actually have to think. And I think sometimes conspiracy theories kind of go along those lines of like, some of it is like looking at maybe facts that don't quite fit the bill and saying, okay, how can we kind of make this make sense? And so I'm not necessarily opposed to conspiracy theories, but at the same time, like, I'm a little hesitant because we also live in a world where we can do deep fakes, which is to create basically videos of people doing or saying things that they would not normally do or say, and it's completely legit looking.
Yeah.
Like, you cannot tell the difference.
Yeah, it's getting very scary how easy it is to.
They can mimic voices, they can mimic videos, and so like I'm finding it very hard to say, okay, well, what if we watch this video and it's like, well, that video might not be legit. Like, how do we kind of check that out and stuff like that? So I mean, I'm kind of torn on it in that like I do think it's a good idea to think, but I also want to be hesitant to say, well, that doesn't just mean we should endorse every conspiracy theory,
right?
We need to actually think through this and process this and actually see like how much of it is legit versus how much it is not. I mean, let's face it. If Taylor Swift, as much as she is worth, wanted to somehow try to rig a football game, she has the money to do it.
Oh yeah.
Now I doubt that that is something she's going to do. I'm pretty sure she's not over there going, I just want to spend all my money.
All she would have to do, in all honesty, now I'm jumping on the conspiracy train.
Jumping on.
Honestly, all she would have to do is say like, hey, I'll just do like a 3-day concert in I'll do 3 concerts in your city. And they'd be like, our economy's going to go so far up. Like, the government would be like, you guys got to lose this game.
Yeah.
Like, it would be, I mean, she definitely could do something, to do it if she wanted to. Now I'm convinced. So
yeah, now you're convinced. It's all the pieces. They're all coming together.
Yeah, it is funny because now you talk about like as Christians, how much should we get into this? Like, is this taking away from? So we've talked about it before about like my Power Ranger YouTube channel. Power Rangers, the very first season was called Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, so I made an account called Mighty Morphin Conspiracy Theories. Now, I'm not really like a conspiracy guy. I'm not that guy who's like, I swear there's aliens out there. I'm not that guy, but I just thought it was like a catchy title. But now I've kind of been pushed into this world of like, now I'm the conspiracy theory guy in the fandom, so people will be like, what do you think about this fan theory? And I have to like give a good answer. And
they filmed in that location to drill oil.
Yeah.
It was all about the economy.
I wish it was more like, that would be pretty interesting. It's more just like there's these fake characters and I got to make something about these fake characters to make sense because I know that it was just bad writing, but I have to find a way. And but
you'll notice this character has long hair, much like season 5, episode 10.
The funny part is there's a character that he was the most famous one on the show, and then the last season he was on, one of the other characters, his hair just kept getting longer and longer, and they actually told him that, well, when that guy wants to leave, so like when you take over, you got to have long hair so that it like people feel like comfortable because they like this character so much. They actually told him that, and then they just got rid of the whole cast. But anyway, that's neither here nor there.
Then they got rid of the whole cast.
They got a whole new group. But what the thing about it though that's crazy to me is like I'll do these kind of fun. It's just for fun. It's obviously a show that isn't real. And man, there are people.
Oh yeah,
they get so fired up, like angry, just mad, angry, and it's like, it's just. I mean, like I have my thing is I will say it even like in my video, like if you're gonna curse and be mean and call people names, I'm gonna delete your comments and I'm gonna like block you from commenting. But there's people that they just get so fired up about something that's not real.
Yeah,
and even that, it's like
it's a show.
It's a show, and we know it's not real. So why are you? But then you go to people who like. So that's why I just mean like I see a basis of crazy just from that, and then you get into people who start talking about things that they really think are real, and it's like sometimes it kind of takes over their life, and they kind of go nuts a little bit. So. Yeah, it's kind of a weird.
So you kind of see what I've got. Like, I mean, there is a stage where you're just like, I don't know. I don't want to. I guess you're saying I'm saying you can go too far. Like, but again, I also don't want to say like we should stop thinking because I think some of the biggest things that have happened, like even in my lifetime, started as a conspiracy theory, and only later we found out it was true.
Right.
But again, there's a reason we call them theories. Like we don't know if they're true or not. We can't tell. That's the problem. Like we don't have like solid proof, but we can at least theorize. And I think there is something that's actually good about having that kind of a thought exercise.
Yeah. Oh, I think so. Because, I mean, the times where I've had people act like, you're like, that doesn't make any sense. You're dumb or whatever. And then when it turns out, if there's something that turned out to be true, it's always funny to see the reaction of people. Like, oh well, I'm not. They just don't know what to do because like they thought it was dumb, but now you find out it's real, which has happened on a few things. I can't think of them right now, but it's I don't know. It is very interesting to me because I mean I've said this before, but I don't. I feel like anybody who sits there and says I know everything about like the government, I'm like, no, you don't, man. There's got. I mean, I probably already told this story, but. There's this guy that a friend of mine, his son is in the military, and they just had this guy. They were flying somewhere, and they were, I can't remember if Iraq, I think. This guy just huge beard, comes up, super muscular guy. He's got about 4 pistols on his attached to his legs.
Yeah,
he's got a big rifle, and he's like, "You guys go into the whatever?" And they're like, "Yeah." And he goes, "Okay, I need to get on this flight." And they're like, "Okay, well, we got to talk to that." He gets on the flight. They land at this base, and he just leaves the base on foot, just like takes off into the mountains.
Yeah.
And he said about 4 days later, the guy was at the hall eating, and they're like, "What did that guy do? Like, what did he do?"
Yeah, yeah.
And he didn't have any gear. Like he just took off with a bunch of guns, and they're like, "What?" The guy's this huge, massive guy. They're just like, it's so weird. And so whenever someone's like, "Well, this is what's happening," it's like, I don't think we have any idea what's happening, really.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think to some degree, a lot of our governmental stuff has become just a big machine.
Yeah,
like it's gotten so big in a regard that it's hard. It's not. I would say this, the joke is always like, do you really think the government's that sly and slick? Like the same people that run the DMV. Have you been to the DMV? Like these are the people, and it's like I get that point, but I also get like it's just like they always say, like if you ever want to hide something, just do it in plain sight.
Yeah.
Like because if you start hiding stuff. Like that's when people find it, because then they're like, "Well, why'd you hide it from me?" I remember, and this was time and time ago. I can't even remember. I literally sat there and wrapped a gift right in front of somebody, and they had no idea. Like, just oblivious because they weren't paying attention. You know, I'm wrapping a gift for the kid. I'm wrapping a gift for this person. I'm wrapping a gift for you who's standing right there. Yeah. You don't know. You see the first one, you're like, oh, he's just wrapping gifts for kids or whatever. And it's like, you don't ever think about like the next. Yeah. So, sometimes it's like what happens right in front of you that is the more mysterious because that's what you weren't paying attention to.
What's funny is you say that because my 1 year, because I have such a hard time for finding gifts for like my dad and stuff, because he just buys everything he wants. So my grandpa used to have a meat market. So, I mean, years and years ago. So I thought, it would be cool. I'm going to print up shirts that look like employee shirts. Yeah. That say Dave's Meat Market on it. And then we had like a real menu from like way back in the day. So it was like, steaks were like, 10 cents a pound or something.
Oh, yeah.
And so I got one for like everybody in the family. And my grandma came over. Everybody's wearing the shirt. It's a maroon shirt that says Dave's Meat Market on it. And she's just talking, hi, how you doing? Merry Christmas. For 25 minutes she's in there. And then she sits down and opens her gift. Oh, my gosh, a Dave's Meat Market shirt. I mean, literally every grandchild is wearing one. She didn't notice at all. Yeah. It's amazing, And it makes me think every time I go to Costco in East Peoria, I go, there's like a little exit so I can avoid all the traffic in East Peoria, that downtown. And I always look down that road, and there looks like there's this big building that I can't tell whether it's a school or some industrial thing. And every time I think, when I get home, I'm going to look that up and see what's down there. I never do. Every time I drive, I go, I got to look that up because I don't know what's down there. And it's such a weird location. And then I never look it up to this day. And it always drives me nuts.
Well, now it's in a podcast. Now you got to.
I know. Well, I'm going to think about it this whole time we're recording. Then we're going to walk down, and I'm going to go inside, and I'm going to forget about it.
You're going to forget about it.
That's just so. And also, I have to say, when people say the DMV thing, it's like I'm not harping on DMV people, but there's people. I mean, if you said, this restaurant industry, there's some pretty corrupt people in it, and you go, really? You think the guy flipping your burger knows how to be corrupt? And it's like, well, he's not the one running the whole franchise. He's just flipping a burger. DMV is like, that's kind of a different department, I think, than people who are like, doing things classified off the books, Yeah.
Honestly, though, I would also say, like, the other thing, too, is, and this is just, because you're right, like, the joke is always with the DMV. But here's the reality is, I've been to the DMV a number of times. And to be honest, if you're a pleasant person,
it's fine.
By and large, they're pleasant people, too. Yeah. They're just people.
Yeah.
But I also get it. Whenever you have people coming in day after day and they're always mad, and they're mad at you for something that somebody else somewhere else did to them, or something that they did not knowing that whatever. Like, after a while you're gonna be a little bitter. Yeah. and as you see somebody approaching your desk, you're probably going, oh great, what's he doing? Yeah. But I mean, usually whenever I give them a smile and be like, here's what's going on. Like, they're pleasant people. They're nice.
I tell you that, and that really does such a difference. Because I try to be a very happy, if I get something from like McDonald's in the drive-thru, I try to be like, have a great day. I try to be very like, I don't know. Even if they don't seem happy, I try to be very positive.
I mean, it's always good to try. I mean, again, we all have bad days, and we all have times whenever, maybe happy is just not in the books. But But by and large, if you try to be happy whenever you're dealing with somebody in the service industry, regardless of what they're doing, they're happy in return.
Yeah.
Because they're just happy not getting yelled at.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and it always scares me when I see people who are like mean at like a restaurant. I've told you before that I went out. Played with this group. We played at a random church. The pastor took us out. We went to Avani's, and he was so rude. It was just mind blowing to me because all I could think of is like, aren't you embarrassed? Like, just the fact that we're here, aren't you like trying to be on your best behavior? But it's like he did not care. It was like, get me some hot bread. I asked for hot bread. I was like, geez, Louise. It's like, just put some butter on it. It's good anyway.
It's still the good bread.
But it was, I mean, that's like, that scares me because that's like, that to me, that's like almost a psychopathic tendency in my book. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, yeah, that scares me.
All right. Well, that was my current event. I wanted to bring up the conspiracy theory and, of course, talk about the Super Bowl that's coming up. Now,
yes,
I want you to be thinking about the Super Bowl because maybe next week we'll start talking about who we think is going to win.
Okay. I'm going to have to look up because even after talking about what we talked about, I don't remember the teams. So
it's the 49ers and the Chiefs.
The 49ers and the Chiefs. Well, my brother was a 49ers fan, so it's funny. Okay, so I do social media for Kidder Music, and I looked up because this year is our 50th anniversary of the company.
Oh, cool.
So I looked up trivia from 1974. Because I was going around to all the employees going like, oh, well, who was the president? Who was this or whatever? And my favorite answer I got, I said, who won the Super Bowl? And the owner, he's still involved in the company, but the guy who started it, Jim Kidder, he said, oh, probably the Packers. They've won most of them. That was my favorite response. Is they've won most of them. And he said it so confidently, too. And then he just kind of smiled. And it was like, yeah, that's funny. But as a Packers fan.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Huge Packers fan.
Yeah. Do you have you ever owned a cheese head? Is it a cheese head or cheese hat? I don't know.
I don't have the hat, but I do have like the can koozie. The block of cheese.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very nice.
And I got a sweatshirt. I got a Packers sweatshirt.
I think part of the Packers appeal is it's just such a great branding.
They do have some good
branding. The cheese is such a great. I mean, it's just so good. If you're like, and I love
like cheese.
I love the Cardinals, of course, because the Cardinals.
That's right.
But it's like you can have a hat with a bird on it. It's just like there's something so simple and kind of humorous, but like everybody can get behind cheese,
That's right.
There's nothing to argue about.
Everybody gets behind cheese.
Yeah.
Because it's delicious.
That's right.
All right. So that was my current event story.
Okay.
Which means we're on to kind of our next section.
Yeah.
So, and one of the things I wanted to do on a week-to-week basis, and I'm gonna kind of steal this time right now to do that, and that is to basically talk about my Revelation Bible study that I've been doing. Super exciting, super fun. I absolutely love. It's one of those things like doing this study. It's both fun and it makes me a little nervous at the same time.
Yeah,
like this is one of those times whenever I tend to overstudy.
Oh yeah,
just because I'm nervous that I'm going to forget. There's just so many little things here and there.
I hear it was packed. Of course, I'm at rehearsal for the service. So, but
we had a goodly amount of people. Yeah, it was actually pretty good. We haven't made it. So if for those of you that are thinking, well, I already missed so many lessons. Yeah. We're just now making it to the book.
Okay.
The first two lessons were all like introductory material. So we are just now making it to the actual biblical book.
Right.
We're going to be in chapter 1, verse 1, come Sunday. So just realize, like, don't get me wrong, we've talked about a lot of stuff, but we are actually just now getting to the very first section. So you haven't missed enough. You can come and join us if you'd like. But it is super exciting. I enjoy this. It's a good time. And one of the fun things is I found my old notes from seminary days all lined up from whenever I was taking Dr. Lewis Brighton's class. So
that's exciting, though. Yeah. I have heard people are already, I should say the praise team has talked a lot about it. Being the people who are upstairs practicing while you're giving it, we're all like, that sounds really interesting. Like, I'm sure a lot of people want to go. And then someone's like, oh, I saw there's a lot of people down there. We're like, oh, cool. Yeah. So that's exciting, though. It's one of those books that there's a lot of mystery. I feel like a lot of people feel like there's a lot of mystery behind it. So
and to be fair, there is. One of the things that we discussed was like, some of the language in the book is coded, and like,
right,
And in that regard, you might say some of the vision that God gave to John was coded, and like, there were some reasons for it being coded, but yeah, that part of what makes it interesting and confusing, and is like some of it is like you just got to figure out the code,
yeah,
and then once you figure out the code, like the mystery's gone, but like even then, like I always bring up, like there's a section where John actually talks about Rome, like the city of Rome, but it's like he's under Roman control. He's exiled to the island of Patmos. He can't just say Rome.
Yeah.
Because that's like a red flag. They'd take the letter away. The soldiers, like they wouldn't deliver it.
Yeah.
So instead, he says, the city of the seven hills. Well, that's Rome.
Yeah.
Rome had 7 hills around it.
Interesting.
And so it's like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So, that's Rome. Gotcha.
Yeah.
But it's very pretty. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah,
you got to decode.
Got to decode it a little bit.
Make sure you drink your Ovaltine,
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Get your decoder ring.
Get your decoder ring.
Yeah. Although I think that's at the bottom of your life cereal.
Yeah.
Get your decoder ring. But anyway, so yeah, just kind of an update. I'm doing. I haven't done a lot of the research stuff, kind of stuff. Like I kind of want to do that a little bit, maybe in the weeks to come.
Yeah.
Like actually share a little bit of the research and stuff that I'm doing. But at the same time, like a lot of what we've been talking about is mainly just the introductory material kind of thing. Like who wrote the book? Why do they? Why do they think so and so wrote it? Where does this come from? All this kind of stuff. So
right. It's interesting.
Good times had by all.
Yeah. All right. I got a question for you.
All right.
There was a TikTok or reel or whatever.
Yeah, whatever it was. I got what you're saying.
That popped up, and they asked this guy, how, as a Christian, how can you be okay with war or any of these things? Because the Bible says you can't murder, and his response was, he said that it's a problem with translation because there are 2 words in the language that mean like killing in a certain way, and one is specifically murder, as in just kind of killing to kill somebody and take their stuff or whatever, and one is more like self-defense oriented, like defending yourself or something along those lines. He said it very quick, and it was kind of one of those like, papa, like, oh, really taught this kid a lesson or whatever. But I wanted to ask you, because I don't know if that's true. So it's like when someone just says, oh, well, that's the problem. It's just a translation. There's 2 words, and it says you can defend yourself. That's different from murder. So, but I want to ask you if you knew or if that's something.
So I would say a couple different things. First of all, he's right and wrong. Like, it's just it's one of those things. Like, I don't want to say he's wrong. He's not. He's right. And the section of scripture that he's actually talking about is and I know it's in the what they would call the priestly law, if you will. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't know if it's in Leviticus, but it's like in Leviticus or Numbers or Deuteronomy. So it's in one of those kind of like sections, one of those kind of books. And basically the gist of it is, God established these cities, these places where people could go if they killed somebody, with the idea that they could actually garner protection. So when the Avenger of Blood comes, that is, so let's say, I don't know, like Billy Bob over here decides to kill Bobby Joe over here, and it's his neighbor. Well, if he murders him and takes all his stuff, that's like thievery. That is punishable by death. Doesn't matter where you run. If they catch you, you're gone.
Yeah.
But let's say Billy Bob kills Bobby Joe or whatever his name is, and it's because Bobby Joe came at him with a knife.
Yeah.
And he was scared for his life, and he hit him with a shovel, which is what he had in his hand. And by golly, Bobby Joe died. Well, Billy Joe can now run to one of these cities as a refuge. So that when like the relatives come around and they go, well, we're after him now, like they'll be stopped and he has safety because it was it wasn't he was defending himself. But at the same time, let's say, Billy Joe and Bobby Joe are both farming the ground and it's a horrible accident.
Yeah.
And something that Billy Joe does causes Bobby Joe to die.
Yeah.
He can also run to those cities for safety
okay.
because the death was not an intentional murder for the sake of extra gain. And so the Bible kind of does specify, like, all these different scenarios. But that being said, warfare is a completely different beast.
Yeah.
Because, like, the country might be protecting other people or whatever, but at the same time, like, there's going to be a time where the soldiers are directed not to say, hey, if they shoot at you, you can shoot back, but to say, no, we need to overtake this element, which means we got to go on the offensive.
Yeah.
And basically, if you go to the New Testament and you go to, like, the Pauline text, Romans 12 and 13 being the big ones, Paul pretty much lays out this foundation that, like, God gives the sword to the government. Mm-hmm. And the government has the sword which God has given it. And that sword can cut. And it is allowed to do so.
Yeah.
As long as the government ultimately is trying, it's not allowed to defy God's will, if you will.
Yeah.
But it is, for instance, it is allowed to go to war, and there is such thing as just war. Now, again, this is where we got to be very, very cautious, because, like, well, now we can ask the question, well, what's a just war? Well, a just war is whenever government is doing what government is supposed to do. That is to say, ultimately, to protect the people.
Yeah.
So if you have an aggressive nation, well, I mean, again, let's go back to the 40s, right? 1940s, like, Nazi Germany, like, right? Like, they were an aggressive nation at the time. Germany was aggressive. They were trying to do world domination, and they were trying to do something that was evil.
Yeah.
Like, there were going to be times when the soldiers had to do something very, very offensive to put a stop to it.
Yeah.
And that's not a bad thing. That's one of the reasons that the government has the sword that it has.
Right.
And that's one of the reasons that it can go to war, to do those things, to protect the people, whether it be the people of their land or even a much larger case. And so the government actually is allowed to do that, and it is completely and utterly justified. So a soldier can participate in that and can do those things. Now, that being said, you shouldn't be like, well, we're a small country, we want to be a slightly bigger country, we're going to go take over this land. Well, okay, that's not justified.
Right.
The government still might do it, the soldiers still might do it, but ultimately, as a Christian, that's a non-justifiable case. That is not just war.
Yeah.
That is you causing war where there should be none.
Yeah.
And that is non-justifiable.
Mm-hmm.
And so when you start looking at these kind of things, like this is, and this is where you get into, like, God's will versus the will of man and everything else. And I mean, I think as Christians, we really do need to dwell on a lot of these things a little bit more, because I think one of the things that we're beginning to run into, and I mean, again, you're seeing this with a lot of these, like, here in a little bit, we're going to actually get the opportunity to vote for a president. Mm-hmm. And more than likely, I mean, again, I don't know what's going to actually happen, but more than likely, it's looking like our choices are going to be Joe Biden or Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Like, and here's the thing. Joe Biden claims that he's a Catholic, but if he's a Catholic, he's not very good at practicing as a Catholic. Mm-hmm. That is to say, some of his morals go directly against the Catholic Church.
Right.
But on the other side, we have Donald Trump,
who is a very good practicing Catholic. No, I'm just kidding.
He's I think he said he was Presbyterian at one point in time. But I could be wrong on that. I could be completely wrong.
He probably has to check on that.
But that being said, we can probably argue that at least going by his past, I'm not talking about present tense, I'm talking about his past, he has shown himself to be not necessarily a good practicing Presbyterian Christian, if that is in fact what he is claimed to be. So which means we're going to have to vote on one or the other.
Right.
And basically, when you go there to vote, you're going to be voting on what you are hoping the policies of those presidents are going to be, one or the other, whether you think one is a little bit more in line with your Christian values as opposed to the other. Mm-hmm. And that's going to be ultimately the choice that you make. And then there's going to be a lot of people on both sides. There's going to be a lot of people that say, how can you vote for Biden? Look at all of his policies. He's obviously not a good Christian. And the strike back is then going to be, well, have you seen Trump? Like, he's not, I mean, how many wives has he had? And, like, you know, all this kind of stuff. Like, I mean, again, and if we want to say, we're going to elect this person based on the moral character that they have, we should definitely be throwing both of them away and getting new people.
Yeah,
but
for sure.
If we're basing it on the value of what they're going to do and saying, okay, which one is more in line with my Christian values?
Yeah.
Again, not just what I want, but my actual Christian values, what the Bible says. Then we're going to be looking at this in a completely different way. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, we're kind of getting there. Now, the thing of it is when was the last time we had a president that wasn't a Christian, or at least claimed to be a Christian?
Right, yeah.
And the answer is never. We've never had an acting president that didn't at least claim some form of Christianity.
Right.
But yet when the Christians, and when Paul wrote that
mm-hmm.
to the Romans who were living in Rome under the rule of somebody who, well, didn't like Christians.
Yeah.
And so we need to put that into a little bit of perspective. Like Paul tells us to like we need to actually obey our governing officials outside of whenever they grossly call on us to defy God.
Right.
Like other than that, we need to be fairly obedient. But war, I think, especially coming back all the way around, like war is one of those things, right? Like if we're asked to go out and commit war and ultimately murder, as Christians, we need to think about that and go, okay, what are they trying to do? Is this a justifiable Christian cause? Mm-hmm. And if it is, we can participate. And if it isn't, then we need to be the first ones going, well, I just don't agree with this. This is against my faith. Yeah. And I think that's fair. I mean, and if we get, and if we get jailed for that, then we get jailed for that. That's whatever. Mm-hmm. But I mean, I think that's important to kind of make that distinction. That we should do that to some degree with all laws, right? Like again, I believe that abortion is murder. I just do.
Yeah.
I just do. I firmly believe that at the point of conception, you have a child that God is placing together. And I know that at times, especially among a lot of people in our culture, that is an unpopular opinion. Yeah. And I also know that it's legal in our state.
Yep.
Which means I will never advise somebody to go get an abortion, nor would I ever want any of the members of my church to go get an abortion.
Yeah.
But again, I also like to play the other side of that too, which is to say, if somebody has done that, like that is still not a reason to fear coming to church. I mean, look, coming to church is all about sinners who need a savior. We've all made mistakes. And if you're a person that's like had an abortion and you're like, boy, now I feel bad. I probably shouldn't have done that. Well, okay, you shouldn't have done it. But you know what? Let's come into church. Mm-hmm. Forgiveness is still there.
Yeah.
And that's kind of part of it as well. Like we're not here to judge you in that regard. Like repentance and forgiveness is repentance and forgiveness.
Yeah.
Like we're not here to dig up a bunch of old laundry to make you feel bad or make anybody feel bad, really.
Yeah.
But again, at the same time, like now obviously the government's not going to compel me to give somebody to get an abortion. Mm-hmm. That would be awful. But if they would compel somebody to do something like that, I would stand directly opposed.
Yeah. Well, and I know. And I think that's something that some Christians are really good at. And to be honest, there's some Christians that are really bad at it. They're really bad at being accepting of people, even for their past. The sad thing is, I say celebrity. I doubt a lot of people probably know who she is, but her name's Kat Von D. I don't know if you ever heard of her, but she was a tattoo artist. I think she does some music, some different things. But to be honest, she's mostly famous for sort of the affairs she's gotten into, some of the things with different celebrities that she's been involved in. And she recently became a Christian and got baptized and has really kind of changed her life quite a bit. And the thing that she said, I saw a couple interviews with her, and one of the sad things was that they were saying, well, I bet you probably lost a lot of friends, because she was into like witchcraft stuff and all sorts of crazy things. And she said that sadly, a lot of those people are actually like, hey, good for you,
Yeah.
And whatever. And she said it's the backlash from Christians online are the ones that are more, and of course those are, the people who want to, like we talk about conspiracy theories, people going crazy. There are people who are just nuts, and they are. I mean, I've never in my life thought about messaging a celebrity and telling them I want to kill him. Never. Yeah. Surprisingly.
Surprising. Yeah. I'm shocked.
I'm shocked. But she has got. I mean, she just said, "Yeah, it's just it's amazing how many people say like she doesn't deserve it. She doesn't." And it's like that's. But it's so sad because at least she does understand enough of Christianity at this point that she knows that that's not the truth. That's not how Christians should be. So. She's even said that, do my friends who are like the Wiccan and like witchcraft people, like their lives, are they perfect? No. And she goes, are my Christian friends perfect? She goes, no, but they have more of the life I want. And they know they're not perfect.
Yeah.
So she's like, I think that's the thing that got her to start focusing on Christianity, because there's all these people that they weren't perfect, but like, they were in a loving relationship, or they had like their kids were good kids or something. And then she saw all her other friends and like their lives were a mess. They had no money. They were just always like trying to, take like, so it's interesting because it makes me sad when I hear that sort of thing where, I'm getting a lot of backlash from Christians who don't like that I've become a Christian. It's like that's so sad.
It's weird too, isn't it? You think about it.
The first thing to me is I think, oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Good for her.
Yeah, we should be overjoyed. Awesome. Absolutely.
Yeah, and but it's I don't know. Yeah, people should. I hope most people know that you should just. Come to church.
The other Christians remind me of?
What?
Jonah. You know what Jonah didn't want?
You know what?
He didn't want Nineveh to repent.
That's true.
He didn't like them.
Oh, you got it.
Didn't like them.
Yeah, that's very true. And the fact that was one of our readings this week makes this so
it's timely.
It's timely.
It's so timely.
Yeah, that's very true.
Jonah has been popping up in a lot of our conversations.
A ton.
In a lot of our conversations, we've talked a lot about Jonah.
I think we're just going to get rid of the epistle reading. We're just going to change it to Old Testament Jonah reading and gospel.
And the problem is Jonah is such a short book. Like, we're going to end up going through it like 10 times this year. So
yeah, we're like in April. We're like, all right, guys. Well, we're going to start over on Jonah.
We're going to start over. All right, person in the front row, can you memorize the first 5 verses?
That's what we started.
Jonah.
Start a church called the Church of Jonah, and it's like, you don't have to memorize the Old Testament, but just Jonah.
Just Jonah.
Just that. That's the only one.
Just Jonah.
It works for everything. Yeah.
It works for everything. Works for this story.
But then, we jokingly, but you're kind of right. It is like, I don't understand the rage of people who just, especially in this situation. I understand the Jonah story being that horrible, horrible things have been done to probably his family and people he knows.
Yeah.
But it's like, you're dealing with a celebrity who, like, okay, she slept around with a few celebrities and stuff and like did some things she probably shouldn't have. But it's like, she didn't hurt you or she didn't do anything to you. And so to have some person who's like, you should, you're still going to burn forever because you're just a horrible person. It's like, man, it's kind of crazy to me.
I think one of the things, though, and this is actually true, I think one of the things that comes to mind for me is that a lot of times as Christians, we kind of put sin into categories.
Yes.
And we do that based on the destructive nature of the sin.
Yeah.
And so whenever you have a public person like that, they look out at her life because they can, and they see the destructive path that she's led. Mm-hmm. And she's like, okay, well, you go into church doesn't make up for all of this destruction that laid behind. And to some, and they're right.
Yeah, to some degree, yeah.
And yeah, I mean, if there's things that she can do to put things right, she should definitely do that. That's part of repenting, right?
Right.
Turning from your sin and trying to make amends and trying to make things right. But on the other hand, you also have the reality that, like, if she's repented of her sin and she is, has faith in Christ Jesus, like, no, her sins are forgiven.
Yeah,
like, that's just it.
Forgiven.
Like, it is unfair. Absolutely, it's unfair. That's kind of the point. Like, and if we start looking at our own paths, one of the things that we'll notice is we might be super crafty at hiding the destructive path.
Yeah.
We might be super crafty at it, but the reality is like our sin laid a destructive path as well.
Mm-hmm.
One of the I love Jordan Peterson. I
like Jordan.
I do. I love and I just love listening to him. But one of my favorite things that he has is and they're all little snippets, right? This is all like the TikToks, Reels, Shorts, whatever they're called. But like one of my favorite bits is whenever he's talking to, and I think he's talking to like a class, and he says in my clinical experience, I've never seen anybody get away with anything. And he says I've seen people like try to twist the fabric of their own reality.
Yeah.
And he's like, they might get away with it for a little bit. And he says, but sometime down the line, and it might be 5-10 years later, all of a sudden reality snaps back.
Yeah.
And he says, and all of a sudden their life just falls apart, and they don't know what happened, and they don't know why. And he said, now if you start backtracking and you go, okay, well, I did this, and then I did that because of this, and I did that because of that, and you can trace it all the way back to that one time they had that really big thing that they wanted to twist.
Yep.
And he said, that's the problem is you can hold that twist for a little bit. Mm-hmm. And because you can hold that twist for a little bit, it makes you feel like you're getting away with it.
Yeah.
But you're really not.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it's going to snap back, and all of a sudden you're going to find yourself having to deal with all kinds of messes that you've made and you've laid throughout the whole shebang.
Yeah.
And I've always kind of loved that little quote that he has. But I've also in my own lifespan found it to be true. Now again, I'm 42. But I mean, I found that if you give it enough time,
mm-hmm.
that outside of something really extreme getting in the way of that, like for the most part, yeah. Like if you have somebody that does something really, really stupid and sinful and awful, they might get away with it for a little bit, and it'll feel like they're getting away with it, but it's something else is coming. Like, and again, it's because they've made a series of choices.
Right.
So
I find that, I mean, in my experience with running a band, I mean, I've been doing it 13 years, and my biggest requirement for having someone join is that they have to get along with people. And I mean, I chalk that up honestly to my Christian upbringing, and I feel very strongly about that, you know. And there are people who definitely, I've had tons of people over the years saying, you know, if you would just like, you could get this guy in. I know he's kind of a pain, but like he'll make you sound so much better, and he'll do. Yeah. And I hear that all the time, but I'm glad I've never, I say, stooped to that level, because I'm like I at this point after 13 years, I have a really great group of people, and we all really like each other and we get along. Yeah. And I know that wouldn't be the case had I allowed that. Like, I can think of specific people. If I had allowed that guy to come in, yeah, we probably would have sounded a little better, but he would have been a real jerk. And the other thing about that is that all those people that I like could have had join and didn't, they're not doing so great nowadays. Mm-hmm. And you can tell because they burned a lot of bridges. They weren't very nice people. They're like their career. I mean, I say career, but I mean, there's not really a music career around this area, but they're not getting gigs. They're not doing well because they've upset so many people. Yeah. And people don't want to work with them. So yeah, it's just, I don't ever see people getting away with acting poorly. Yeah. Around, you know, it goes back to just the, like, are you nice to the waiter or the waitress, you know? Yeah. Like those type of things. So yeah, I don't know. It's kind of I don't know. I get into where I really do have a hard time with Christians that I've met or people I know who, they're Christian and like they're really just kind of rude to people. Mm-hmm. That always kind of, I just don't get it. I don't get how that's like you can do that and feel like that's okay, you know? But I guess you justify it because you were really upset about your meal or whatever it was. And
well, and again, you know, I think that's one of the things though that is also good about Christians is like, you know, you got to realize like people are coming from different times and places and they're coming with different experiences and like, you know, I mean, I always say, I'll tell you this. I even hate to bring this up because so like I remember in college, like when I first went to like Seward and everything, like that was about the time that the whole like your mom jokes were big. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean,
and I remember to this day, because like where I grew up, you didn't say that. You just
they didn't say that in Beaufort, Missouri?
No, because you might get punched. People took your mother, their mom, very seriously. And they had all kinds of reasons for that. I'm not going to go into all of those, but like that was like the worst insult, which is why the jokes are so funny, because they're so ridiculous.
Yeah.
And they're making fun in a sense. They're making fun of like the other half where people took that real seriously. So I remember I was sitting there in my college dorm room, and one of my buddies said your mom joke, and I think that was like the first time I said, "What'd you say?" I was like, what?
Throwing something on the table? Let's go right now.
I was like, I gave him like the stare of death. I was like, what did you just say? Like to me, it was like, you just didn't say that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just not appropriate.
Yeah.
And it was a ridiculous joke, and it took me a second, and then I was like, okay, you're okay, it's a joke. Like,
Yeah.
But like there for a second, I was like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, I don't know what I did to you to get such an insult, but like, but anyway, it was just, but again, I think one of those things is like, there was obviously a communication difference between the two of us, because I had come from a very, very small town. I had not really heard any quote unquote your mom jokes. And people didn't really say them.
Right.
And I will also say, like, it might not have been so much my area as much as some of the people I hung out with. Mm-hmm. So, one of my friends in particular, like, he didn't have a dad in the picture. Like, his mom was it. Like, and they had an incredibly rough road. And so, like, if you insulted his mom, he might just he might just try to put you in the hospital. Like, you just didn't do that. Like, that was his mom.
Yeah,
and like that was it for him. Like, so as I got it, like, and so it might just have been like I hung around him an awful lot, and that was a huge part of my own kind of like how I figured things out, I guess you might say. But like, I think there's a lot of Christians that come from that too. They come from all these various environments, and like, some of it's a perspective thing. Some of it is definitely like, okay, just calm down. You need to, be a little bit more polite to people and so on and so forth. But some of it might actually be a cultural element as well.
Yeah, you're right. That's true. Yeah, it's that is funny though. You say like, what'd you say?
Yeah, right.
That was definitely.
I don't think I'll ever live that down. By the way.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But that was very popular. Saying. I know this is getting this is a little off, but speaking of old insults, my sister-in-law about a year ago, or maybe 2 years, I don't know. She brought this up, and now I think of it all the time, which I haven't thought about since like I was a child, but. Whenever when I was a kid, whenever someone would say, like, "Hey, where's this?" Like, "Hey, where'd you put the soda?" You'd say, "Up your butt and around the corner." That's my favorite insult, and I haven't thought about that in years. And then my sister-in-law goes, "What I thought about the other day? I thought about when you would say to people, 'Up your butt and around the corner.'" And I laugh so hard, and now I think of that all the time. It's like I can't get that out of my head for like 2 years now. I just think about that all the time. It's just one of the funniest insults. Like, I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's really an insult. It's just like a dumb thing to say, but it's fun.
It's fun. It's a fun insult.
Yeah, that is funny. I know, you get different cultural. The one thing I will say culturally is that you from Beaufort, Missouri, you can keep your Billy Joe Bob and your Billy Joe
and Bobby Joe.
You can keep that straight. I don't think people around here. Or maybe some of the farmers can. I don't know, but I can't keep those straight. Now that's not. I don't mean that as an insult. Okay, I don't know. That's I just stereotyped. Okay, I'm so sorry.
Billy Joe and Bobby Joe, I think, is what I had to do.
Billy Joe and Bobby Joe.
Yeah.
And I mean that whole story. I'm just like, you were using your hands so I could keep track because I was watching you. But I'm like, I got it. But I think you just have an ability to keep track of the Billy Joes and Bobby Joes.
They're big in Beaufort.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness gracious.
I'm gonna be at church and someone's gonna be like, "Oh, farmers, huh? Farmers keep our Billy Joes, Bobby Joes, huh?" I'm like, "Oh, sorry."
Yeah, that's right.
Whoops. Yeah. I'm not gonna say. I was gonna say something, but I'm not gonna keep going.
Yeah,
I was trying to defend myself, but it's just gonna sound worse, probably. So I'm just gonna stop now.
It's one of those. It doesn't work. Yeah. Well, is it that time?
I think it's that time.
I think it's that time. I think it's time for church chatter. All right, here we go. Our timing on that is getting
good.
It's getting good.
I mean, we never discussed that as a thing. It just kind of started happening. There was like
we just started doing it.
Yeah, that's why it's so good because it's just so natural.
It's natural.
Yeah,
it's natural. Well, I mean, I'm thinking about all the stuff going on at church. We've been blessed. Actually, our weather has been great. We had some rough times earlier. Not this week, but I guess the week prior with all this cold weather and everything else. This coming Saturday, we have the bingo, the baby shower bingo. Do not forget, baby shower bingo, 2 to 4 p.m. It is on a Saturday, so unfortunately, it's Saturday. I will be frank and honest, I am not probably going to be there. I'm a huge supporter of the Pregnancy Resource Center. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying baby showers and me don't necessarily get along. So yeah, I'm just gonna be open and honest about that. I hope a lot of other people go though. I think it's gonna be a great time. Put on for a great cause. I think it's great. But yeah, I don't think I'll be there. So. Also, the other thing I think is important to bring up, and I don't know when the closing time for this is, and that is this 1 day mission trip that they're kind of doing.
Okay.
And they're going down to St. Louis. Now, Orphan Grain Train, we've talked about here before. As far as I'm concerned, one of the greatest charity organizations out there. They do not spend a lot of time or money on graphic design or advertising. Yeah. So, if you've heard about them, it's probably been through a church or something. They're a great organization. And so they're going to go down to the facility in St. Louis on February 13th. It's a Tuesday. Now I keep going back and forth. I really want to go. I just don't know if I'll be able to. I have a circuit meeting that day, and so I'm just
yeah.
And I shouldn't say I would skip. I would say that I would go and just get to the next one. But the problem is that by golly, in between various pastor conferences and everything else, I don't think I've been to one.
Yeah, in a while.
In a long time, since November maybe. So it's it's been a while. So I'm I probably should go. Mm-hmm. And so that's one of the things holding me back. But I do think it's a great cause. They're doing food pantry stuff for the seminary food pantry, which I am always thankful for because I will be the first to be honest. I practically lived off that thing when I was in seminary.
Yeah, yeah.
You do not make a lot of money, and
yeah.
And if you're in the cafeteria plan and everything, it's okay, whatever. But my fourth year, I was not on the cafeteria plan.
Yeah. And
so I lived off the food pantry for a while.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, I don't know. I feel like sometimes there's people who they view a college and why do I need to help them or something? But especially when it comes to if it's people working towards. I mean, this was in St. Louis. This was your you said seminary. Yeah. So it's it's hopefully helping the next generation.
Yeah.
The pastors sort of come into.
And I think one of the things that needs to be one of the things that needs to be said is also that. So for a seminary food pantry, it's a little bit different than a regular college because college predominantly, I'm not saying all of it, but predominantly is the 18 to 22-year-old kids.
Yeah.
I called them kids. Young adults, 18 to 22-year-old young adults, studying, getting a bachelor's degree or whatever, going to further their career. By the time you get into seminary, about 50% of the students are that. They're, 23 to 26 years old. Mm-hmm. They're, again, kind of the same position. They got dorm life. They go to the cafeteria or whatever.
Yeah.
The other 50% are second career. Some of them are older. Some of them have quit their very well-paying jobs.
Yeah.
grabbed their wife and kids and moved to St. Louis to be in seminary full time.
Yeah.
And they, maybe the wife works, but the husband can't work because he's in seminary classes. They still got to pay for all the stuff with their kids.
Right.
It's still going to cost. They're still taking out loans for the housing. So it's just, you got about 50% of the people that really do utilize a food pantry because like they need it to get through.
Yeah.
And a lot of these guys, I say like they didn't work. That's just not true. Like a lot of these guys are trying to hold another job, even a full time, at times a full time job, even on top of it. But they're working like the night shift or something.
Right.
And so that's wildly different, which is why I kind of bring that up. Like, so the first 2 years of seminary, like honestly, I just went to the cafeteria. It was no big deal. And every now and again I would like get into the food pantry and, sometimes people would donate things or ramen.
Right.
Hey, right? Ramen.
Yeah.
Great. So if the cafeteria had something awful, I had ramen as a backup, whatever.
Uh-huh.
But like when I was in my fourth year, coming straight out of vicarage, now all of a sudden I was, at the time I was married, I was living with my in-laws, which they were awesome. But at the same time, a lot of times I was still working as a valet. I didn't get home in time.
Yeah.
And like, they weren't charging us rent or anything, but like I was still living with them and I felt like I needed to help provide whatever I could. And sometimes I was eating on the run and like, let's face it, stopping off at fast food is terrible. And
yeah. Yeah.
So absolutely. There were times whenever I'd go to the food pantry just because like I kind of needed to in order to afford anything.
Yeah.
Because I didn't necessarily make it. Sometimes I didn't get home till like 1 or 2 in the morning.
Yeah.
Because again, I was working as a valet, and valets sometimes don't get off till super late.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you brought that up because that is something. I mean, I guess there's a part of me that kind of thought like, they need help, but I didn't really think of it in that context of, like you really need the help,
Yeah.
And especially for those people who are older.
Yeah.
That. Come in through or a second career or whatever. Yeah, it's very interesting. I have, unless there's anything else about that, I'm going to tell you a quick story because this is one of those moments, like you said, your mom thing.
Yeah,
I was at my some friends of mine went to a school nearby. I won't say it because I don't like it. But anyway, it was just, we were in like their dorm room and there was this guy who was there and I said, and I don't know, he looked like maybe he's like 5-6 years older, you know?
Yeah.
And so I said, "Oh, what are you studying?" And everybody in the whole room, "Oh, Casey, you're so dumb." And I'm like, what? Why is everybody laughing? Like, "No, he's our campus pastor." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. Well, I'm sorry. I go to ICC where there's like 45-year-olds and there's like a 60-year-old sitting next to me and there's like a 14-year-old homeschooled student." And I'm like, "Sorry that I asked a guy what he's studying that goes here." They just they just laughed and thought that was so funny. And I'm so dumb for thinking he was going to college, which first of all, he was like he could have been like doing a master's program or something.
Oh yeah.
I was like, "Oh, come on." But anyway, yeah. So that's one of those moments I had kind of like that where I was just like, "Oh yeah, sorry." It's like I sit next to a mother who's going on a second career, like in my biology class or something, like she's older than that guy, like,
right?
Geez, Louis.
Right?
Yeah. But that was my.
But yeah, no,
moment.
The married housing was if you weren't, a lot of them were off campus.
Yeah.
But like if you were on campus, we called it in the woods because like there was like a little roadway and then there was like some trees and then they had like all these like duplex style houses.
Yeah.
And like like it was always fun because like sometimes I had a couple of friends that lived in the woods and and so it was always funny because we'd eat at the cafeteria, and all of a sudden one of your friends from the woods would invite you over and they'd say, "Hey, we're going to do this for dinner. It's kind of a special thing." And I'd be like, "I'm there."
Yeah.
I'm like there, home cooked meal and not this. Like, and there's nothing against the cafeteria food, but they're making it for like 100 people. So you're just kind of like, eh.
I mean, you got to make it for a mass quantity, not quality, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hear you.
My one buddy, and I think he's still a pastor actually in close to St. Louis, a subdivision kind of St. Louis. His wife was Filipino.
Yeah.
And she was such a good cook. Oh, my goodness gracious. But I also found out that she, I guess, was very possessive of her recipes. She didn't. Like I asked her a couple times, like, "How'd you do this? This is amazing." And she's like, "Oh, you know." And then she'd like walk away, and they'd be like, "Okay."
Now, speaking of that, with this being church chatter, I just want to say we do meals on Wednesday nights after church.
Yeah, at times.
And you made this like zucchini pizza casserole.
Oh
thing
man, it was so good.
I got to be honest, I'm not really a zucchini person, but oh my gosh, that was good. I actually went back and it was like there was pizza and there was your zucchini casserole. I'm like, I'm having more casserole. That was delicious.
Yeah. And it was super healthy too. Like honestly, it was super. It was a spaghetti squash pizza casserole is what it was. Good. No cheese, no added sugar.
Oh, man, I didn't even think about that.
Yeah.
I mean, it was delicious.
And now again, I was doing the Whole30 thing. Right. That's kind of over for me now. So it's like, you know.
Yeah, you're.
So that's been nice.
Okay, well, since we got to know this, what's the first thing you ate that was like off the? I mean, when you were like officially, I'm done.
You know what it was? Chips.
Chips, yeah.
Oh my gosh, did I miss chips?
Yeah.
Which is a problem because I need to stop eating them already.
Yeah.
I need to be like, okay, going back. But like, I love chips. I just do. do. I love them.
Is there anything you craved that you like you were like, it was strange you craved that while you're on it? Or no?
I mean, again, early on, so the Whole30 thing is you cut all like the sugar out, excess sugar out of your system. You know, there's a lot of things that like I tried to make and failed, you know, like I tried to make my own ketchup, turned out awful. I tried to make some other things that didn't quite turn out right.
Yeah.
So you had all of those things going against you. And like, so there were certain things that I craved in terms of like things like ketchup, like, you know, you just want
those little,
you know, I'm going to eat a burger. I don't really care that it doesn't have a bun. But man, I wish I could have a slice of cheese and ketchup, like just stuff like that. But I will say though, like, you know, early when I first started, I had a headache for like 2 days.
Yeah,
and I'm pretty certain that it was like the sugar withdrawal. They put sugar in everything.
Of course, yeah,
everything. It is ridiculous.
Yeah,
and then to find things without sugar, things that you would say this won't have sugar in it. Yeah, it does. It has sugar.
It's in pretty much everything except for Mountain Dew Zero.
Yeah, right. They got some.
They would send me some. I would like if they would send me some free stuff.
And tonight's episode
is brought to you by Mountain Dew Zero
and Lutheran Hillside Village.
Lutheran Hillside
and Lutheran.
We're getting way to it. We're getting
and the letter B.
I used to with my band. I used to do this whole bit where. We used to play at Snyder Village, this retirement home, a lot. And so I would be at places. I'd be like, I would make a joke. I started doing this whole like, oh, you know, today we're brought to you know, we played over. I did this thing at Snyder Village. By the way, if you're ever looking for a nice place to live, and I would do this whole like announcer thing. I did it at this concert in the park, and I found out afterwards. Someone's like, okay, this whole thing was sponsored by like this. Like nursing home right down the road, and the whole time I was doing these bits about you should go to Snyder Village, like in the next town. I felt horrible. I was like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I was just trying to be funny, but any hoozles,
any hoozles,
yeah. Anything else on the church chatter or?
Yeah, I'm just trying to think. Like again, we got the 1 day mission trip. We got the food pantry. We got the baby shower bingo going on. Really, we got a lot of stuff going on for February, and then of course, Ash Wednesday is coming up rather quickly.
Yes, on Valentine's Day.
On Valentine's Day. So I'll be on February 7th. That's a Wednesday. I think it's February 7th. Anyway, I'll be burning the palm branches, getting the ashes ready.
That's right.
I'll probably do that with the youth and anybody else that's interested. So anyway, so yeah, look forward to doing that as well. But yeah, I think those are like the highlights here.
Yeah.
We're trying to get things ready. We're going to be having our series this year for Lent is going to be on Exodus, the book of Exodus. And we have a devotional book. Now, we haven't quite printed them out yet. So they're not quite ready yet, but my guess is if not by this Sunday, it'll be next Sunday for sure. We'll have some devotionals that can go along with the sermon series on Exodus. So certainly something to look forward to.
Yeah, that's exciting.
Yeah,
getting to the big season.
The big season.
And I can't wait to do our fish sandwich review.
That's right, fish sandwich review. Well, first we got to go and get all these fish sandwiches. We do have to get,
which it might just be like McDonald's because we might not be able to get any others, but yeah.
Oh, we're going to find a way.
Yeah.
We're going to find a way.
Yes. I'm excited.
Super excited. Well, anyway, that's all I have. I think that might be it. Oh, my goodness gracious. Well, anyway, thanks everybody for joining us again, for joining our conversation, for joining the podcast for the Parishscope. I hope you guys all have a great day, evening, whatever it happens to be where you're at. So, yeah, have a great week. Bye.
Bye.